Okay.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Marvin Jenkins, and I'm the coordinator for the Women's Business Center for Maryland Capital Enterprises. And we're a nonprofit organization, and we assist women entrepreneurs who are either starting a new business or expanding their existing business. We service the Eastern Shore of Maryland, plus Baltimore City, Baltimore County, and Anne Arundel County. And we offer a lot of educational programs, workshops, one-on-one counseling, consulting, as well as loan assistance. And I'll put my information in the chat. And with that, I'll turn it over to Maxine. And most of you already have been on here before, so most of you know who she is. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Maxine.
Thank you, Marvin. I appreciate that. Good morning, everybody. I hope that you guys are ready for our day 3 QuickBooks. I thought we would start out by just reviewing some of the data we looked at last week, and then actually going through some of the items that we have not touched on at all. So just looking at our dashboard again, you can see here that we have profit and loss, the expenses, invoices, and sales, and our bank accounts. At this stage, obviously, we can customize this. I think we talked a little bit about this last week, but we can customize this to relate to whichever quarter we're looking at. If we're looking at a specific period, you know, however it best helps us run our business is the best way we can look through this. We touched on banking last week, and we went through how to adjust and accept items within the bank account. One of the items we didn't talk a lot about was categorization. So if you categorize something and you want to undo that, you simply check undo, and that's going to put it back into your account for review. So one of the things I felt I didn't touch on last week, just wanted to go back through that. With sales, we talked a lot about the sales overview. What are we looking at for sales? If you wanted to do a comparison to last year, if you wanted to just see how that plays out in your sales portfolio going forward, this platform shows you a little bit of that. Here are your open invoices for the last 365 days. Here are the items that were paid over the last 30 days. Again, we had that invoice that we put together, the large invoice that was showing for the indoor pool, and there we go. So we have our indoor pool that was in, we received that payment in, and that's now going to show up as a completed item in the system. We talked a little bit about estimates and how to put those into the system. If you wanted to take an estimate and you wanted to convert it, how that works. I think there's a few estimates out there that are still available for conversion. And actually, we do not have any. We'll put a quick one in just to review last week. Let's say we put in an estimate and we believe that we're going to add some more items to that pool. Let's say that's some designs, some rocks to that pool. We're going to make those rocks $9,800. And that's going to get saved. And in this case, we're showing that we're taxing that item. So that's the estimate that's going in there. And if we wanted to create that into an invoice, we'd simply either create it here, or we kick right back into the estimates and see what's available. Create invoice. And we simply just say we want to create this into an invoice. Okay. And now on the dashboard, you see that it moved off of estimates and it moved into open invoices. And in open invoices, it's going to show you all of the invoices that were open and if it relates to an estimate that was provided to the client. So in here, you'll see that it has one linked estimate up here, and that you can go back to that estimate. So let's say you gave your client an estimate, they call you back and they say, well, we want to add something else to the original purchase order. We would go in and we could either edit the estimate or create the invoice and then add the additional items on there. So in this case, we actually took the estimate and created an invoice for the system to be reviewed. So that is now in here as one of the items. We've got showing $4,469 of overdue invoices. Again, if these invoices were going to be received, let's say that Freeman Sporting Goods called and said, we want to make this payment. You're just going to receive that payment right on in, and say that was a cash payment or they sent you a check in, you're going to put that in, and that's going to apply and save that against the outstanding invoice from last week. And just again, this is a review of what we did last week on the previous training classes. I just wanted to kind of touch base on them before we move forward onto anything new. We looked a little bit at the expenses. Same here with making a payment on an expense. If you wanted to make a payment, you simply just click into the payment and you would type what type of payment that you're going to make, whether you're choosing to do this by a check, whether you're choosing to pay the whole amount, whether you're choosing to pay only a portion of that outstanding balance. You're going to save and close. And then that's going to show you that you still have $141.23 that needs to be made on that outstanding bill paid. Again, the dashboard up here shows you what's open. This is going to give you your purchase orders. It's going to give you any overdue open bills and anything you've paid. So last week, I think we went in and we paid Tony's Pool Company, and we paid them the $49,000 as a subcontractor on our pool installation job. So again, right down the side, here are the list of all of your vendors. You can see them either through this or you can see it through the expense side if you wanted to look at the specific vendor and a specific payment. Any of the items we've made payments on would be right in here. So again, here's that subcontractor for Tony's Pool. It would show the invoice, show when we made those payments, and shows how that was processed. So one of the things I wanted to touch base on today was projects. Projects is a new functionality in QuickBooks. It allows you to manage a particular item. So depending on the type of industry you're in, you may have a project that you want to put together. And in this case, we've put this new pool job in here. So basically what we've done is we can show that the job is in progress. We can show all the customers it relates to. But in this case, it's only one customer, so it's Steve. And we're going to see that the job shows an income and a cost. And that gives us a basic profit margin on this job. So let's say in this particular job, we were going to then add hours into it. We're going to add some additional hours. The cost is our subcontractor labor. The income is what we've charged Steve. And that 40% margin, it does not show the amount of time we're going to put into that. So maybe we have a contractor that's going to be on site to help make sure our subcontractors are doing exactly what needs to get done. We can go and put that in through our hours and our employees that are related to this. So some of that, I'll go back in the options here. And so you can edit this project. You can say whether this project is going to take 1 month, 2 months, whether the project is in progress or if it's completed. Let's say you start the project and for some reason it gets canceled. You go back in and just simply cancel the project out of the system. At this point, we're going to leave this project in progress because we want to take a look at how that impacts us. We want to also do an option here with the hourly wages. If we go into payroll, we're going to be able to show our payroll employees that are working on these jobs. So this is John Johnson, and he's got a $75 rate. We want him to get added to this project that we're looking at. So we're showing all statuses, and we're showing the hourly cost. So we're showing that John Johnson is the $75 rate is part of this project. And then when John actually goes in and puts time into the system, it'll show up here in this time functionality. So John goes in today, he clocks in, he says, I'm working on project, the new pool service. I've got to be out there for 8 hours today to make sure they pour the concrete correctly. That would go in and actually gets calculated into this time area. And then it would actually show up in the cost once we pay that payroll for John. Right now, it looks like we cancel that out. Let's not cancel the status of that. And then this is a breakout of our project as it's set right now. So you can kind of see an overview of those, the transactions that have been impacted so far on that, any time activity, which we were just talking about, the time tracking. And again, so let's say we were going to put John Johnson in there and we were going to say that John is working on this project with the concrete. he's going to work maybe 10 hours on this. So now when we go back to our project report, we should be able to see again. And so there are some of the costs involved, as well as our income, and then the expense, and showing right now that we're netting about $33,000, which is, if we go back in that project module. There we go. And so we're going to mark this as in progress. For some reason, it went and canceled itself out. So now it's showing those 10 hours in there that we just processed. Once we pay the payroll, those 10 hours are actually going to show additional costs in here as well. So right now it's just tracking that we've paid John Johnson those 10 hours, and there's the ability to see that piece. We're going to go back through. And let's say, now the only problem with the system we have right here is we can't actually run a payroll. We can show you the functionality of payroll, but we can't actually process it because obviously we need all of the other costs that would relate into payroll, all the tax ID set up. So the functionality is there if you were to run this payroll, if you were to set this client up and run a regular payroll cycle. But again, because this is a sample company, we can't actually show that functionality on the stream. But what I'd like to go in is to show you contractors. So let's say we actually wanted to add a new contractor to that same project. Contractor. Let's say John works a small company and he does some stuff on the side. So we're going to add that company in there, and we're going to make a payment to him. So we just write a check to John's company, and we're going to put it under subcontract work. Contract. And we're going to say we're just taking $1,500 just to do a little contracting work on the side, and it's going to relate to this new pool project. So here we go. We've now added in that $1,500. Back in contractors, you'll see that John is now showing as a contractor. And back in projects, we should show additional costs related to that project now. So that additional cost will show you that we're at $50,500. And it's going to give you all the transactions that are related now. So we now show the invoice that we made to our client. We show the $1,500 check that we just issued, and we show the funds that were sent to the pool company. Again, it'll show time activity. What are we looking at right now with time activity? If it was billable, if there's any costs related, which employees worked on that. They offer project reports. You can see right now we've probably got unbilled time in there. And that project report should be showing those 10 hours of unbilled time because we haven't actually paid that out yet. And then project profitability, again, it's just going to give you that report that's showing any of the costs that have been incurred related to that project. And again, this is a wonderful functionality. If you've got multiple projects you're working on, you want to see you've got 3 or 4 employees working on one particular project, or if you're doing large projects, if your company, rather than doing small service jobs, or doing larger service jobs, and you want to be able to see, hey, we bid this out to the government at $50,000. I think my cost is only $20,000. I should be making $30,000. And if that's really true, once you collect all those costs, what that profitability really looks like after everything is said and done at the end of the project. So that's one of the newer functionalities that QuickBooks has. One of the items we just went over real quickly is the contract/payroll section. This is also one of the items we didn't look at last week, but I wanted to just touch base on. This is the ability to pay your contractors actually directly. It's similar to what's in expense, because in expense you can actually cut a contractor or a subcontractor or another type of company a check, or basically you can show an expense if you ran it by a credit card. What this allows you to do is for contractors that are typically subs on some type of project. So these are small businesses You can actually add these as contractors here. It will show you that you can collect all the 1099 information as well. You can pay these contractors through here. It's able to be tracked, and whether you pay them by check or whether you pay them directly, they also have an option for direct debit. So you can actually direct deposit their funds to them. It doesn't show it on here, but the functionality is in the system. It's going to show you all the payments you made to that particular contractor. And that way, when you get to the end of the year and you're doing 1099s or you're talking to your accountant about 1099, you can actually go back to you and say, nope, we issued them 3 payments. Here are the amounts we've issued. And we have all of that showed in our system. Another item, obviously, is the documentation. You would want to put a W-9 in the system just to show that this client needs to have a 1099 at the end of the year. Again, like I said, with the employee section, we can't actually show you a lot of that, but I wanted to go into reports. And this is a section we didn't touch on at all last week. In the reports section, you can actually run any type of report you're looking for. The reports that we run the most for most of our clients are the basic profit and loss. So you're basically going to look at a profit and loss statement and just see what income did we make in this particular month, time period, or year, and what expenses did we incur. One of the reports that I run a lot for our clients is our profit and loss by previous year. So profit and loss by previous year, we're going to do this for this year versus last year. So we're going to say this year, and we want to look at our previous year. And the options allow us to do multiple things. We could go previous period, previous year, year to date. You can change the percentages, just depends on how detailed you want to get. So we're going to do ours as previous year with just a change. We're going to run this report. And what this should show us, of course, let's look like there's any 2021 activity in there, but this should show us any activity you had for 21 versus 22. So since we don't look like we have activity for the previous year, let's use the previous quarter. And the changes. And we're going to run this for this quarter rather than. So now you can see that we're running this report showing July to September's income and expenses versus the previous period, which would be April to June. And it will go through and show you the changes. What are you looking for? My goal when I do it from an accounting standpoint is we like to tell our clients, you need to understand whether you're making money or losing money and where the areas are that you can save money. So as you can see, because we threw in all of the stuff for the pool, that subcontractor costs are showing up there, but the income's also showing. And the income's also showing up here for that pool service right in there. So again, this is just one way of looking at reporting. Some of the other reports we run on a regular basis is the balance sheet. Our balance sheet gives us our basic feel for what our checking accounts look like, our accounts receivable, and any of our other funds. So right now, our checking account is showing us undeposited funds for that $89,000 we showed received in, mostly because that did not hit our bank account and it only hit our AR as it came in. So in a normal business and a normal transaction, you would have seen that $89,000 both hit your checking as well as clear out of undeposited funds in AR. Your balance sheet, again, basically gives you a feel for where your activity is in the system. Let's say some of you guys got PPP loans last year. Those loans were probably sitting on here as they were forgiven. They were moved off of these balance sheet accounts. Accounts payable is another area where, again, you'd want to see what's outstanding for our accounts payable. On any of the reports that we run, you actually have the ability to drill down and see all the details behind it. So let's say you looked at a report and you're like, well, this doesn't make sense. I'm not sure why this $2,000 is sitting in here. You can actually click right into the transaction and see, okay, what happened? Why did this get recorded? And if you need to make adjustments to those transactions, you can go straight from the report back to the transactional detail. So this is, again, a reporting functionality in QuickBooks. I wanted to show a couple other reports. Accounts receivable is one of the other reports we use a lot. What's outstanding in our AR? Who owes us money? Where's that money? When are we expecting it? Is it overdue? So items like this, you can go back through and see that this is 61 to 90 days. These items are in the 30 to 35, 31 to 60 days. And those are the items you may want to reach out to our clients and contact and say, looks like you're past due. One of the functionalities I don't think we talked about last week, but one of the items in here is once you go into that invoice, you can actually send that invoice directly from the system. You can share the link again. And once you share that link, you can actually see when the client has logged in. So maybe they have an incorrect email address in here and you've been sending the invoice and the invoice doesn't look like it's been opened. You may want to contact that client and see, oh, your invoice has been going to the wrong email address, and now we can correct that and send that back out. Again, that drill down functionality is all right in the AR detail and in your QuickBooks system. The reports are right there. From a CPA standpoint, we usually get the request for management reports. So I'm going to show you a basic management report that you guys can do on your own, just so that you can send it out. It looks very professional. You're going to get a management report. It's going to show you when the report was run, who prepared it, and give any of your banks or other clients just a comfortability with what's going on in your financials. Are you a client that's making money? Are you losing money? How are you losing that money, and what's going on just in general? So that's the management report that's available. You also have a sales performance report, as well as expense reports. We can go take a quick look at each of these. Again, just the ability to take a look at how your activity is flowing in the system, how that activity looks in a more professional standpoint. This, again, for my clients, they use it a lot for when they're borrowing money from banks or they're sending information out to the banks. Again, these reports are all functionality right in here. And with all of these reports, you can actually edit the report. So let's say the report looks one way, but we want to add something different to it. We can go in here and go, this is prepared by. All right. Give me 1 second. Sorry, give me a second, guys. It looks like my screen share stopped. I am so sorry. We got cut off. All right, we were in reporting. And we were in management reports, and we were just getting ready to edit one of those management reports. Okay, so we're going to go back and edit this management report. You can rename that report to show any kind of variations. And then you should be able to see that additional report showing in here. It won't let me save it. There we go. There's that second management report. So this management report, when you view it now, will have any changes you've added to it and any activity. And as you can see, the sample company runs basically on each variation of a sample company is very basic. So you see we've lost our name again. So we're going to edit this out real quickly. There we go. All right, so we were talking about reporting. My apologies that we got disconnected. So here are the types of reports you can do, management reports. You can edit any of these management reports to show exactly what you want. You can actually customize reports if you'd like to create specific customization. So one of your clients, I have a not-for-profit that sometimes asks us for reports that are specific to grants. So we literally go in here and we customize reports, what the grant wants, what the grant issuers want to see, how they want to see it, and we actually set it up so that way you can go through the grant and see all of those reports. Some other reports I think you should always look at that are out here, and maybe items that you may want to just touch on, is sometimes your deposit details kind of give you a little bit feel for what's going on in your customer deposits, making sure that you've matched up the right clients to the right deposits. If you do a lot of the same type of sales, some of the times you want to make sure that you're not missing those. Other reports we use a lot are obviously the 1099 reports at the end of the year. Again, that's going to collect all of your subcontractor work, and that's going to go through and show you any 1099s you need to issue out in January. Sales tax and use reports. So these reports are going to be related to anything that we show up in our sales tax area, which we haven't covered, but we're going to go through real quickly in a minute. And then employee reports. What time are your employees working? What's the average hours? Where are you spending the most money on? Again, this is a wonderful place to get all of that data in one place. For us in the accounting field, journal entries are a big thing, and general ledger reports are big items that we use. We want to make sure that we understand what's going on in our general ledger, how that's relating to the financial statements, making sure there are not errors or mistakes in here, and correcting those items as we see. And again, if for any reason you run one of these reports and you see an item that you don't understand or you don't know, you can actually drill down into it, and it's going to take you to the core data. So something like this, let's say this was a MasterCard and we show it with automobile, but we want to go back and say that this was really Wawa's fuel. We would just add that right in there. Save and close. And that would adjust any of those information. As you can see on that line, it shows the adjustments and the corrections. Going back to our reports functionality again, there's payroll, all of our general reports. The last item I would say is the trial balance, just making sure that you understand where all your debits and credits are hitting for the system and how that relates to our overall. At all times, they should actually equal out. So if there's something missing or if you've done something that's incorrect, you'll be able to see that. For example, expenses should always be a debit and other items should always be a credit. One of the items we definitely want you to just kind of take a quick look at. For those items, of course, as we go forward, my accountant. So let's say you're like, I don't understand anything you're talking about right now relating to the accounting of it, but I want to be able to send my accountant a link to look at my QuickBooks system to make sure it was set up correctly or any of the corrections that are needed are processed. This would be where you would go in and actually set those up. You would send an invite to your accountant that your accountant would be able to go into your system and actually look and see any of the data, make any corrections, and all of the data would be in real time. In accounting, we just want to take a quick look at our chart of accounts. Again, we did some of that last week, how to add a new chart of account, how to edit your chart of accounts. Again, there are reports all situated here that's going to give you a listing of any data that's happened in that particular account. So for example, your fuel accounts, you want to make sure that you're processing fuels correctly. that would be in this account. If you were looking for something specific, like I want to know, did Joe pay me and did that apply to the right AR account? Again, you can go into this and actually see each of the transactions as they occurred. Going back, mileage was one of the last items I wanted to touch on. So let's go into mileage and show that, again, this is a new feature that QuickBooks has. We're going to show you how to add mileage and how to add it manually, as well as how, obviously, to track it any other way. So let's say we wanted to add a trip today, and that trip is going to be, we think, 105 miles. We're going to go from our client location in Blacksburg, and we're going to come up to, we're going to go up to Northern Virginia, Alexandria, Virginia. And we're going to make this trip, and the trip is actually to go visit our client. We're going to save this. This is actually going to create a trip in there. Did not save. A new trip. 35 miles. Go from, go backward again. Richmond. We're going to put that in as a 5. We're going to use my vehicle and make that a round trip and hit. There we go. So this shows you any trips we've made, just tracking your mileage, tracking that. For those of us who are on the road a lot, who are going back and forth, this is a wonderful functionality that QuickBooks has just added in. It's just going to track your miles for the year. So every time you make a business trip, you can actually go in. Every time you make a personal trip, and then it would actually go through and show you all your trips. So right now we're adding a few manually just so you can see that item's going in. So let's say this is like 450 miles, and we're going from Richmond to, and for this particular trip, it's a delivery and drop off. So again, as you can see, all of those trips show up, and each time we add a trip in, it gives you your potential expenses and the expenses that of total miles you've used. Again, this is a wonderful use for accountants because we use this information as we prepare your tax returns each year. We've kind of gone through reports. Payroll, again, we've got employees, this functionality you can't see. The only other item on the payroll reports are the workers' comp. Again, this is if you wanted to get a quote through QuickBooks, which they offer. We covered projects and just reviewing some of the project items in here. So when we exited out of the system, we lost all of our project data. Let's say we're going to put that back in and show you how that project got started. Let's put this under Diego Rivera. And we're going to make that the school job's going to start and have it end November 1, 2022. And then go new pool. Any transactions that we would have had related to that would be right here. So we're going to go in real quickly and add some of these transactions back that we just lost. Let's go into vendors real quickly. We're going to set that new vendor as Tony's Pool. Show the new expense for that. That new expense we're going to put on here. Tony's Pool. To the checking account. I'm going to say this is sub. And you can see how quickly it is to actually just create even new transactions. We're simply going to save, move through the system, and we're going to add the 49,000 back in there. We're going to put this on this new project that we just did. So Diego Rodriguez has a new pool. I'm going to save and close. And then we go back into this project. We're actually going to see that the project now shows costs related to that. If we wanted to add hours to that, we're going to add Emily, $50 an hour. John, and let's say $95 an hour. And now we can actually add some time into each of those, as well as some of the project costs. Right now, we show no income on that. We show this is an in-progress report project. We've added hours, because we've added rates in there. I'm going to say this showing, let's say complete, and we're going to put this at 45 hours. And again, this is going to keep updating this report as we go through. The project report is a really great area, again, for you to manage a larger project. We'll look at your transactions, look at your time activity in there, look at any of the project reports that are related to it, and again, just get a profitability on what we've got going on. So in this particular pool, we're actually losing money, but let's go back in and put a sales attachment to there so that we can see again that this is fairly easy to update all of this functionality. So this is Diego's pool. We're going to go Diego's new pool. And Diego's pool is going to be, we're going to put this under a fountain. And let's say we, 1,000, 2,500. And we want to make sure that we attach that to the new project. We're going to hit save. And again, when we go back into that project report, we're going to see the updates on this. So now we're showing an income of 77,000. We're showing 51,375 in cost. And again, it's going to show you, we can look at all the transactions that relate to that. We can look at time activity. I can see what is open, what's closed, whether we, and again, even from this point, if you wanted to receive the payment on that, so let's say we make this a 50% upfront, we receive the payments right in here and process it forward. We're going back into sales. I'm going to go in real quickly, and we want to receive that payment in so that we can show that this is coming into our system. We're going to treat that as though that was a, we make it a Visa card because he's getting points on it. And we're going to put that into the checking account. And now I believe when we go back on our dashboard, we should be showing all of those items that came in, that additional sales, $77,000 in the last 30 days, the expenses for the subcontractor, and that the profit and loss now is showing basically that we've made $28,000 over the last 30 days. We can also change the front of this to show if we wanted to look at it at a year standpoint, if we want to look at it on a more detailed standpoint. All of these things are available as changes to the QuickBooks system. They're updates. And again, all this functionality can keep going through however you want to customize your front pages. A couple tabs down here that we didn't touch on at all, which are things like capital. These are offerings that QuickBooks has. If you were in the PPP groups, they actually offered PPP through the QuickBooks system. Commerce is another place that we can look at. If you use Shopify, eBay, any of those other sales platforms, you can actually connect your sales platforms right into your QuickBooks system. And then specific apps. For those of you that are using things like Salesforce, Bill Pay, there's quite a few of them in here. QuickBooks Timer is one of the functionalities we use in our office. But any of these, MailChimp, these can all be connected right into your QuickBooks system to help for a cleaner, more diverse system. Insurance, and again, another option that QuickBooks offers out there. These are functionalities that are all available. Again, we just went through the basic mileage, how to add miles into the system. I glossed over taxes just because for taxes right now, what you can't actually show the functionality of sales news tax, but what you can do is to actually see what sales tax they had already loaded into the system here. If you are tracking taxes, there is the ability to track those taxes in the QuickBooks system. but it requires a separate setup. 1099s, of course, we're already tracking those when we look back here in our expense module, as well as our employee module. So here's the other place where we would see 1099s and how those were set up. I wanted to take one last look back to the dashboard and just kind of go through, do you guys have any questions, any concerns? I know I went through it fast because we actually lost our functionality halfway through the class, which means that everything was reset back to what it looked like before we started our training a couple days ago. So I wanted to open it up. If anyone has any questions, anything that we wanted to go over in a little bit more detail, anything you want to see.
Now's the time. If anybody wants to ask any questions or has any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask it.
Okay, if we have no questions, I'm going to just take one more route through the reporting section. Just kind of walk through a few more reports, make sure that we're all comfortable with how we're getting data back out of the system and how, the usefulness of it. So one of the other reports I use this personally a lot in my systems, is the profit and loss by month. I would like to look and see what are we doing each month. Where are the months you're looking at your higher revenue? Where are the months you're looking at your lower revenue? The ability to actually reduce this report so you can actually see it in a much more functional manner. Sometimes I usually just look at it right across the board. So as you can see here, like in April, where you may show $300, but in September, obviously we're showing 77,000. That's with our new pool and all of those new creations. But you basically can see where are we becoming more profitable as we're moving forward, or are we losing money? Like in August, for example, where they're losing money, do we want to take a look at what caused that? We're showing 2,066 in miscellaneous. We would just drill right down into that and say, what is that? Is that, oh, so this looks like this was insurance expense and it was categorized incorrectly. You would literally just click into that and you can actually just change that to the correct chart of account. So we go insurance. When you save that, you're going to go back in here and you're going to see that this has been reduced. When you go back to your reports, you'll see that that $2,000 was moved up to where it belongs in its insurance category. Insurance. Sorry, I'm looking for it on here too. There we go. There's our insurance expense up here now. It's showing 2,241. So let's say there was something else here in miscellaneous. Let's look at this 250 and see what's in there. Let's say this really should be supplies and not a miscellaneous again. Maybe just hit supplies. Save and close. Yes, you want to modify the transaction. And now when you go back, your miscellaneous is empty. And it's been moved into correct bucket. So I do a lot of functionalities where I run these reports and I actually recategorize. Did we put gas and electric in the same bucket every month? Did we put telephone in the same bucket every month? Are we putting things in the wrong place? So we created subcontractor work. Maybe that subcontractor work really should be going up to cost of goods. You can easily recategorize any of these items as you go through the report. So we're going to change this last one here. That's miscellaneous. We're going to move that back to supplies. Wow. We're going to hit that supply functionality. We're going to save that. And now when you go back to that report, you actually will show nothing in miscellaneous or other expenses, and everything will be categorized. Again, if you run into the fact that maybe you have too many categories or you have too many items that are in different buckets and you want to combine those, I can always, again, you can do that from your chart of accounts. You can walk through your chart. You can make corrections from these reports. But the reports help you basically understand how your business is running, what's going on in that business, and are there any things that need to be adjusted, removed, corrected. Your accountants will use this greatly to figure out how you're going to be taxed, as well as you can obviously use it, how you're going to manage your business so that you're successful. I'm going back to the dashboard for the last time. So again, with the dashboard, you can look at this in any functionality you want to see this, whether it be at a year clip, at a 30 days. When we first started in business, everything was basically on 30 days. We wanted to know what's going on for the last few days, because we had to live, you're starting out your new business, you're basically trying to understand, what am I making money on? What am I losing money on? What is costing me the most money? And how can I reduce those costs? And again, that's where you're going to spend most of your time, is just really understanding what's coming in, what's going out, and how does that affect me, and how does that affect my business. I feel like that covered everything we wanted to cover today. Again, my apologies that the system went down because of that, of our system going down. We actually lost some of the transactions I put in before to kind of walk through with you. So I hope that this at least gave you a good overview of what's left out there with projects, mileage, reports, and then we went back through some of the basics functionality that we had talked about before. Again, banking, where that data is coming from, how to accept those files if we were to go through and accept them all. My system doesn't want to let me override it with anything. Okay, so I'm just going to wrap it up and put us back here at the dashboard. Again, I wanted to open it up again. Are there any questions, anything that we see that I didn't cover, anything that?
I think it was awesome. If you take all three sessions, of course, everybody gets the recording. So with all three sessions, I think you did an awesome job of explaining pretty much anything you can imagine with QuickBooks.
Yeah, I saw that in the chat, somebody had asked about what got lost. So the whole time we've been doing this class, I've been doing it in what you'll see up here says sample company. That sample company is offered by QuickBooks, and it's offered by QuickBooks so that you can, it's basically a base company out there that you're able to go in and do any kind of testing. You wanted to go in and test a transaction. I want to put this transaction in. I'm not sure how it's going to affect my books. I don't want to put that transaction and affect my books the wrong way. The sample company is set at one type of activity. So the sample company is basically set with all of the transactions that's going in. So it's what we did last week where we created vendors, we created sales, we actually created a profit and loss statements and some items in there. All of those items were lost every time the system exits us out, it loses all of that. It resets to where it was at the beginning. So in the middle of this session, when I said we lost everything, I had actually went in this morning and set up some transactions for us to go through by setting up vendors, setting up some invoices and all of those. And actually, once the system crashed in the middle of it, I lost all of that. I hope that answers the one chat question.
Awesome.
Okay.
Well, I will say one other thing. When I do send out the link, I'll put a link to our upcoming webinar events. I think you've got one on bookkeeping coming up in November, isn't it, Maxine?
I believe I probably do.
Yeah, I think so. So keep everybody keep their eyes open for that. And unless somebody else has any questions.
Yeah, and please feel free to reach out to me, our Office of Max's Taxes. If you went through the training and you felt, okay, you know what, I missed out on this functionality or we didn't go deep enough into it, please just feel free to reach out to us directly, and would absolutely love to answer your questions. I'll make sure that I give Marvin our email address into here, but it's usually, if you want to get right in, it's info@maxestaxes.com. That'll come to our office manager, and she'll be more than happy to give you a response or walk you through anything that we've missed or we didn't cover in enough detail.
All right, that sounds great. Well, thanks again, Maxine, and thanks everybody for attending. And hopefully we'll see you on some of our upcoming webinars. And until then, so long.
All right. Thank you, guys. Thanks,
Thanks,
everybody, for
Maxine.
participating.
Thanks again.
Okay.